Make a point, tell a story, right? Tell a story. Make a point, tell a story. You may have heard that many times. You know how important that is. And if you've been following along with these different episodes, you know different ways of telling stories and the importance of stories, different methods of stories. Now today you're going to find out about what are really the basic things every story has. There's a lot of complexities to a story, right? A lot of complexities to a story. There's just a lot of different things that go into a story. And understanding those is very important. But there are three very basic things your story simply has to have. And if you don't have those, then you don't have a good story. And the most important thing to understand right at the beginning, before you go any further with a story, is that a story is all about the character. A story is all about the character. Maybe you've experienced that. If you're reading some book or you're seeing something on TV and you're thinking, I don't really like this. It's not really going anywhere. Partly maybe you don't like the story, but more likely it's you don't like the character. The character doesn't do it for you. The character doesn't interest you, doesn't involve you, doesn't pull you in. And you're thinking, no, I don't think so. However, once you have a good character, you're thinking, okay, I like the character. I like the plot. I like the story. I like the movie. I like the book. Whatever it is. I like it. Because you have that good character. So once you start understanding what are the things that really go into a character, what are the things a character is made up of, what are the building blocks of a character, you start creating better stories instantly. Instantly you start to put things together, instantly your stories come together, and you're like, I get it. That's what it's all about. That character, and that's how a character works. The good thing is it's not really that complex. There are a lot of things to go into a story. And what I'm going to talk about today is really the basics. What you're going to learn about today is really very basic stuff, but it's a really important stuff. Once you understand that stuff, you say, okay, I can add in other things, I go into more complexity, fine. But if you just have these three things, you can start to build an interesting story. Because you'll start to have interesting characters. Now, these three things are something that every character you have in some way or another has to really have in them. And the third thing is something that's most important that your main character have. The first two, hey, any character to have. The third story, your main character has to have it. And your main character is a story, what the story is about, the really story this centers on. If you have a good story, or a good book, or whatever, quite often there may be different things going on, but there should be a main character. You're like, okay, that's the main character. If you have too many different main characters, it gets confusing. Same thing in a book, same thing in a TV show, same thing in speech. So you really want one main character, and that main character needs to have that third thing. The other characters, the first two things you're going to learn about, that's fine. And they'll be there throughout. That's perfectly fine. As long as they can have a little bit of this. But it's really about that main character. Because your story really, if you think about it, comes down to that main character. And speeches. Because speeches need to be direct, need to be powerful. People need to just get it. Like, I get it. And they get it if you have a main character. It's clear who the main character is, and they have these three characteristics you're going to learn about. As long as you have these three characteristics, you're good to go. Everything's fine. People will get it. Like, oh, okay, I understand it. Now, without them, people get confused. Well, what's going on here? But with them, everything comes together. And that's the thing. Making sure you have all three. Now, some stories fall apart because they have one or two. But you need to really have all three, especially their main character. In your story, if you're going to have a good story, it's about that main character. What's the thing the main character does? How does the main character deal with things? That's what a good story is about, and that's what you're going to learn about today. To start with, a main character needs this first thing right at the beginning. And once you know what it is, you're going to think, oh, okay, that's obvious. You know, that's fine. I get that. And it could be. But quite often, stories get told and the main character doesn't have that first thing. And then it's just there's something missing. The audience thinks, there's something missing there. It's just not quite there. You don't know what, but there's something not there. And that's because that first thing is missing. That first character trait that's so important for that character really to work, that character really to get together. Remember, your story is really about your characters. Good character, good story. That's simple. You have to have that first thing. And the first thing your character has to have are strengths. Strengths. Now maybe you're thinking, well, what if I got a character's weak? They're just kind of weak, they can't really do anything, they're all kind of falling apart. Frankly, if you have a character who's that weak, they can't do anything, they're all falling apart, and you're telling a story about them, who cares? Really, who cares? I mean, it's sad and all that, but if they're that weak and they can't do anything, they can't develop themselves, then where really is this going? Your audience knows about weak characters. Weak people who can't get anything done, who have no strengths. And maybe they identify with that. Oh yeah, I have no strength, but do you really want to give your audience examples of people who have no strength? Really what you want to do? No, you don't want to do that. You want your audience to see an example of a strong character. Has some clear strengths. So the audience says, oh, okay, great, that character has strengths. And if they start identifying that character, they say, oh, I have strengths too. Maybe I thought something else, but I really have strengths. I really have these strengths. It's really important. So strengths. Character has to have strengths. So what sort of strengths do they have? Well, it could be somebody very smart. Could be somebody very strong. Could be somebody very powerful. Could have a lot of money. So there has to be these strengths. And these strengths are what pretty much is going to get the character driving. So when things happen, the character says, okay. But these strengths will get them through. Now, I'll talk a little bit more in a little bit about the second thing your character needs to have. You may have figured that out already. But it really goes back to these strengths. These strengths drive your character through. It's really important your character be driven through no matter what happens. No matter what happens, your character's okay. One foot in front of the other, here I go, here I go, here I go. That's a character. Because your audience will identify with a character. They identify with a strong character, with all these strengths. Then that's when thinking, hey, I want to be that character. I want to have that sort of thing happen. Have you ever been inspired by seeing somebody being really strong or powerful, like a firefighter that runs in and saves a child from a burning building, or some person that does something really heroic, and you're thinking, wow, that's a powerful, strong person. I'd like to be like that. Well, when you're telling speeches in your story in your speeches, even stories in your speeches, usually it's because you want the audience to emulate or get or identify in some way with the characters you're talking about. So there has to be strengths. Really important, it has to be strengths. Because these strengths are going to get people to the strength to, as Garrison Keillor of Lake Wobegon and National Public Radio says, the courage to get up and do what needs to be done. Courage to get up and do what needs to be done. That's what your character needs, that strength to go on. But it isn't all about the strengths. Because you can't always have strengths all the time. There's something else that needs to be there too. And that's really important. But once you have this basis of strengths, great. No problem. It's the second thing that really adds to it. As you'll see, it really helps to get that character together, really get that character working. Now to get that character to come together, you can't just be strong all the time. Now you may be thinking, Tim, what do you mean? I want a strong character. I want a strong, powerful character that just can do anything, a real Superman character. Well, okay. The problem is your audience is not going to really identify with the character. Those are the sort of characters that people put on a pedestal. They say, wow, isn't that person amazing, that guy amazing, isn't that gal amazing? Boy, I'm nothing like that, but boy, they're special. They're really special. And the thing about it is, if you have stories about characters who are special, your audience won't identify with them. Because sure, they need strengths to get all the way through them, but you always need something else. If you're going to really have the audience identify with your character, you need to have a second thing, and that is challenges. Challenges. There's got to be some challenges. Got to be some problem, some situation, something going wrong in that character's life. Now granted, they're still strong people. Still got to be a strong person, because when challenges come up, when difficulties come up, you're just like saying, forget it, I'm out of here. And a lot of people do that. However, in your story, you don't have characters that just give up when problems happen. Somehow, you want them to continue moving on. You want them to have some sort of strength, some sort of thing about them that keeps them kind of moving forward in some way. Maybe they don't have all the answers. Maybe they don't have all to do it with all themselves. Maybe they need help from somebody. That's great. That's really important. But in some way, they keep on moving forward. They got the strength to move forward, but they move forward in spite of these challenges. They move forward in spite of these challenges. They may have all these different challenges, all these difficulties, all these things going wrong, but they're still moving forward. You know people like that? Their life's tough and difficult, and you think, man, how could they be like, how could they face all that? And yet they're still moving forward. Somehow they're still moving forward. That's the thing. So yeah, they got these challenges, and they're still moving forward. Now the strength has to be there. The strength is there, and then you experience the challenges. Maybe you've experienced that, where everything just seems good, everything's fine, I'm strong, I'm powerful, and then bam, something hits you. It hits you hard. You had that experience? Yeah, well, so is your audience. Your audience has the same experience. They're going strong, they're powerful, hey, that's great, and then something hits them. And all of a sudden, that challenge gets them. And it forces them to say, do I really want to keep moving forward, or do I just give up and let it go? Maybe you don't know where to go, what to happen. You really don't know what to do. It's like, okay, everything's going great, I got all these strengths, now I got a challenge. What now? But you don't get in that situation of the what now if you don't have that challenge. You know that challenge, then nothing happens. If you're just strong and you're powerful, then you're telling a story like, oh, I got up one day, it was a beautiful day, I walked outside, it was wonderful, great, had a great day, went home, went to bed. Woke up next day, beautiful day, I did all my stuff in the morning, went outside, beautiful day. That's a boring story. It just keeps going on and on and on. You gotta have a challenge. Challenges make stories interesting. Challenges to your character make stories interesting. There's gotta be a challenge. Something gone wrong, some problem, some situation that your character has to face. So strength, yes. Challenge, and then there's this. Bam. Character hits against it. Doesn't know what to do. That's the situation. You got strengths, you got challenges. And those together are almost what you need to create a great character for your story. There is one other thing, though. It's really important. It comes out of the challenge. You have your strength. You have your strong character, they got all the strength, and all of a sudden there's this challenge they face. It's difficulty. bam, they're up against it. The audience experienced that, you've experienced that, you know what that's like. So there you are. What do you do now? That's the third part of this character. Strength, yes. Challenge, yes. But the third part is really where things start to go. It's really what drives your story, what makes your story work, what makes your story really have a point. That point of make a point, tell a story, that point is really about that third part. So anybody can have strength, everybody can have challenges. Hey, now the third part, really don't have that interesting a character. And the third missing part is simply the goal. The goal. And the goal is to figure out how to overcome that challenge. How do you overcome that challenge? That's the goal. So your guys are a really strong character, they're strong, they're great, they're doing things, and one day something happens, they hit up against, they got this challenge. And their goal is how do they overcome that challenge? How do they get past that challenge? How do they move past that? That's the issue. That's the goal. Moving past the challenge. How do they move past the challenge? And that's what your audience will relate to. Because your audience, like you, has a sort of life. You know, things seem good, things are fine, and all of a sudden, bam, they get to a challenge and they haven't yet figured out how to move past it. They got the same goal. I want to move past it. I want to figure out what to do. How do I move past it? That's the goal. The goal is to move past it. And telling how you move past it, how you achieve that goal, that's the story for your speech. That's really it. And you've heard these sort of things before. People say, everything was fine, it was great, I had a job. Then one day I lost my job, I was out of money. That's the challenge. So strength, everything was fine, I had a job, it was great. And then one day I lost my job, lost my money, that's the challenge. So my goal is, how do I get money again? How do I get money flowing again? That's the goal. My goal is to get back to that successful, moneyed way I was before when I lost my job. That's the goal. You tell people how to do that, and then that's what your whole story comes about. Achieving that goal. Achieving that goal. So once you have the strength, great, here's the strengths. Then the challenge, usually challenge will go against the strength. So you've got a strength like, okay, I had a lot of money, and all of a sudden, boom, I lost that money. So, had money, challenge, lost the money. I got a goal of, how do I get money? Or, everything is going fine, it's great, I'm meeting other people, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong, and I start losing those relationships. Well, how do I relate to other people? Or I'm feeling fine and confident about myself, and then I discover that I don't know how to relate to people. So my goal is to relate to people. My goal is to make money. And then the whole point is that how do you achieve that goal? That's what drives the character. That's what drives your story. How do you achieve that goal? How do you overcome that challenge? How do you overcome that challenge? So the nature of the challenge kind of determines where the whole story is going to go. And the strength kind of sets things up. Strength, I have all these strengths, and one day a challenge affected me. In those strengths, somehow I want to overcome that challenge and achieve what I need to achieve. Get things done. You start telling stories like that, with characters with strengths and challenges and a goal. I mean, that really comes together. As I said, it's about your main character. Your main character. That's the one who needs to have the goal. And the fewer characters, the better, especially in a speech. In general, the fewer characters, the better. If you've got a main character who's got that goal, you've got a pretty good story. You may have heard, make a point, tell a story. And if you haven't heard it before, well, you heard it now. Make a point, tell a story. But Well, how do you tell a story? A story is all about your characters. It's about your characters. And your characters need to have three definite parts to them, three traits, three things they need to have. And the first thing is they need to have some sort of strength. Some sort of strength, some of the things the character just has, strength, that really is part of them. Maybe it's their identity, maybe it's who they think that they are. There's this strength, and this strength will drive them forward. This strength will keep them going. The strength moves them ahead in life. You start out with those strengths, because you build from your strengths. So once you have this character's strengths, then you can go somewhere. Especially if you want your audience to kind of identify with that character. If your audience feels that they don't have any strengths, that they're kind of weak, and you have this strong character, and your audience identifies with the character, maybe your audience can help realize, hey, I got some strengths too. So that's powerful. Or if you got a strong audience and then you have a strong character, think, hey, I'm strong, the character's strong, it's good. Great. Strengths are one thing, it's what you start out, but then there are these challenges that happen. Challenges. These challenges affect those strengths. Had a lot of money and then something happened to make me lose my money. Had a girlfriend and things, something happened to make me lose that girlfriend. These challenges affect those strengths. Thought I was a good speaker, but one day somebody came out and they told me things and I thought, oh, not as good. There's a challenge to those strengths. There's a challenge to those strengths. And that challenge will drive the story forward. Because that challenge is like, okay, here you go. You think you're coming along, and then bam, something comes up right against it. Right against it. That challenge. It just stops everything and just stops everything dead in its tracks. Okay, you got a strength, you got a challenge. One more thing. And that's the goal. The goal. Your character has to have a goal. If your character's all about it, I got a strength, I got a challenge, and there's no goal, it's like, oh gosh, well, what do I do now? Forget it. Forget the girl, forget the money, forget this, just forget it. Now your audience may identify with that. Hey, yeah, forget it. Heck with that. However, your point isn't of a story in your speech, isn't just to get your audience to identify with the character. Your point is to uplift, to help, to educate, to somehow bring your audience up. Your audience should be transformed by what you're saying. And the only way that's going to happen is if you've got a character who's got a goal that your audience shares. Your audience has already identified with your character, with the strength and the challenge, and now they've got a goal. Hey, I want to overcome that. I want to get money back. I want to get the girl. I want to overcome that challenge. I want to do something to move past it. To make things happen in my life. That's the goal. Overcoming that challenge. That difficulty. Now, once you start doing this in your stories, you start telling characters that have strengths, weaknesses, and especially goals, you will notice a transformation in your speaking and in your stories. Suddenly you'll start to be aware that your whole speaking ability, your whole speaking style just changes on stage. You're more confident, more certain of yourself. You walk out on stage because you got stories, they got strengths, they got weaknesses, they got a goal. You know you got a good story. You tell a good story, you can see it in your audience's eyes, they start to respond, they're looking at you, they're getting it, they're feeling it, they're putting themselves into that story. That's great because you make that quick connection with the audience. That quick connection, the audience gets it, they understand it. Okay, I got a strength, I got a challenge, I got a goal. And you tell them how to make that goal happen. And you just transform their lives and your own life too. You start to learn a little bit more about yourself. The more stories you tell about this difficulty, the more you realize your own situations and the challenges you face and how you can overcome them. You're putting together a story. You want to really just put together a story from scratch. Just remember, you need a character that has strengths, that faces a challenge, and has a goal to overcome that challenge. Put that together, and you'll have a story that will rock your audience.